reference. Acts chapter 23, when he's in the courtroom before the Sanhedrin, before the Jewish ruling authorities, and they are basically questioning him. They're giving him a hard time. And Paul's talking to them in verse 1 of Acts chapter 23. Paul looked straight at the Sanhedrin and said, "My brothers, I have fulfilled my duty to God in all good conscience today." And at this, the high priest Ananias ordered those standing near Paul to, bam, strike him in the mouth. Ow, that doesn't seem like a very nice thing to do. Paul didn't think so. And then Paul said to them, "God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there and judge me according to the law, and yet you yourself violate the law by commanding that I be struck." Those who were standing near Paul said, "How dare you insult God's high priest?" So apparently, because of Paul's vision problem, he wasn't able to see clearly who this person was. But look how his attitude changes when he finds out that this is the high priest. Paul replied, verse 5, "Brothers, I did not realize that he was the high priest. For it is written, 'Do not speak evil about the ruler of your people.'" This doesn't mean that we cannot criticize our rulers or our presidents or our courts, our judges or people in authority. They should be open to be criticized. We should call them out when they do wrong. But I think there should be at least a measure of respect for how we speak of them and deal with them, not because they deserve it necessarily, but because of the position that they are in, position of authority. So let me review very quickly from this section. We talked about how we should remember that our citizenship, our forever citizenship, is in heaven. It's not anywhere on this earth. We want to be good citizens and love our country, but we realize that's not the ultimate. Secondly, we should have an attitude of being obedient to or being subject to all government authorities, because we recognize that they have been ordained by God. That this system is set up by God, and it's set up for our good. Thirdly, we submit to governing authorities, not just because we're afraid of being punished, that may be part of it, but because we want to have a clear conscience before God. We want to have a clear conscience before God. And finally, we should speak respectfully of a person in authority. We should try to give them a measure of respect or courtesy, even if we don't like them particularly, even if they're not the person we voted for or we wish would have been elected or come to power. To conclude, I want to share a short passage from the Gospel of Matthew, because I think we see an event in the life of Jesus which summarizes this topic very well. The question is, as Christians living in this fallen world and as citizens of certain earthly governments, what should our attitude be towards our rulers or our governing authorities? We read in Matthew chapter 22, starting in verse 15, "Then the Pharisees went out and laid plans to trap Jesus in his words." They were always looking for ways to trap Jesus or get him to say something that they could use against him, and they never succeeded. Verse 16, "They sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians. 'Teacher,' they said, 'we know that you are a man of integrity and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are. Tell us then, what is your opinion? Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not?' But Jesus, knowing their evil intent, said, 'You hypocrites, Why are you trying to trap me? Show me the coin used for paying the tax." They brought him a denarius, and he asked them, "Whose image is on this, and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. Then he said to them, "So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God." Maybe you're more familiar with the King James Version edition. "So render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Amen. I want to transition now into our time of communion. This is a communion Sunday.